All right, diving in again with another deep dive. This time, we're taking a look at what it's like to study electrical engineering abroad, specifically in Malaysia.
Sounds interesting.
We've got this great talk given by Faisal Abdul Rahman Jawas.
Okay.
He's a recent electrical engineering grad, and he spoke to a group of new students who were, well,
Heading over to Malaysia to study.
Yeah, exactly. He's clearly got a passion for helping these students find success, and honestly, he shares some really valuable insights from his own time there.
So what's the mission for our deep dive today? What are we hoping to uncover?
I think let's really break down what Faisal has to say and see what we can all learn from his experience.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. So right off the bat, I was struck by how much he emphasizes those core electrical engineering subjects, like right from the start.
Oh, you mean like circuits and electronics, that kind of thing?
Yeah, those are the big ones. He also talks about machines and how they're not just like hurdles to clear. He sees them as the foundation for a successful journey in electrical engineering.
It's like he's saying, hey, don't just try to get by.
Right.
Really dive in and master these concepts.
Yeah, because they'll come back again and again.
Makes sense. You can't just escape them.
And I love that he gives this really practical tip about using past exams from the university's library to get ready for tests.
Oh, that's smart.
It's like getting a sneak peek into what the professor might ask, right?
Exactly. Like what kind of questions, the difficulty level. I wish I had thought of that.
Me too.
Did he have any other study tips, like good places to study?
Well, funny you should ask, because he also highlights the library as this awesome place to escape distractions.
I mean, yeah, that's what libraries are for.
Right. Especially when you're living in a dorm or something. You need that quiet space.
Yeah.
Focus.
Definitely. Okay, so what else stood out to you about his advice?
One thing that was really insightful was his point about learning at least basic Malay.
Interesting. I mean, I know English is pretty common in Malaysia, right?
Yeah, it is. And Faisal acknowledges that.
So why the emphasis on Malay then?
He really believes that being able to connect with locals in their native language unlocks a whole other level of cultural immersion.
I see. So it's more about that deeper connection with the culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It shows respect, willingness to engage.
I can definitely see how that would enrich the whole experience.
And he shares this story about a fellow student, Muhammad.
Muhammad.
Yeah, and Muhammad had this passion for design, but he was studying electrical engineering.
Okay. So how did that work out?
Well, Muhammad actually used his time at university to hone his design skills.
While studying electrical engineering.
Yeah. And get this, he ended up having a really successful design career.
Wow.
It just goes to show that being open to new experiences and exploring your interests can lead to some pretty amazing paths, right?
Totally. Unexpected but rewarding.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
just never know where your path might take you. But, Faisal also touches on something really important that often gets overlooked.
What's that?
It's about finding that balance between academic life and, well, everything else.
Oh, right. That's so important. It's not all about hitting the books 24/7.
No, it's not. He even admitted that he wished he'd made more time to just explore Malaysia and really soak it all in.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the pressure of studies, and forget about all the amazing opportunities around you.
He reminds us that it's about expanding our horizons and creating memories.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Any other nuggets of wisdom about balancing life?
Oh, yeah. He talks about something that I think a lot of students, maybe especially those studying abroad, forget about.
What is?
Staying connected with family back home.
Oh, of course. Especially parents.
Right. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of this new adventure, but those relationships are so important.
Yeah, they're your support system.
Mhm.
Especially when things get tough,
Exactly. Having that connection can make a world of difference. And, it's interesting because he links that back to his advice about building a professional network.
Building a professional network, how does that tie in?
He's all about being proactive. Don't wait until you graduate, Start building those relationships now.
Makes sense. So where does one even begin with building a professional network, especially as a student?
Well, he's got a great suggestion. Create a LinkedIn profile right away.
Oh, that's a good idea. I wish I had done that sooner.
Seriously, think of it as a living portfolio where you can showcase your skills, your experiences, projects you work on.
That way, when you do graduate,
Yeah.
you've already got a presence.
Exactly. And he goes even further. He encourages students to really research potential employers.
What do you mean by that?
Like understand what they're looking for.
Okay. So it's about knowing what skills they want.
Yeah, and tailoring your own skills and experiences to match.
That's pretty strategic.
Yeah.
So you stand out, you're more competitive.
Exactly. And to really get ahead, he strongly recommends those summer internships.
Oh yeah, those are great.
Ideally in fields related to your career goals, of course. And he even mentions that they often lead to full-time job offers.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Right. It's like a win-win. You get experience, and you might even land a job after graduation. But of course, no journey is without its bumps, you know?
Oh, for sure. And I bet Faisal has some stories about that.
He does. He doesn't shy away from sharing those potential pitfalls.
I'm all ears. Well, that's a story for another time, another deep dive.
All right, so spill the tea. What pitfalls did Faisal warn about?
Well, one that really jumped out at me was his advice about romantic relationships.
Oh, relationships. Interesting.
Yeah. He cautions against getting too caught up in them, especially early on in university.
I can see how that might be a distraction. Did he elaborate on that?
He did. He actually shared a story about a friend who got really involved in a relationship and his grades started to slip.
Ouch. That's not good.
And it ended up pushing back his graduation, because he needed to take extra semesters to catch up.
So it wasn't just a temporary distraction. It had a real impact.
Yeah. He ended up graduating alone, kind of isolated from his original peer group. That's tough.
Yeah.
Missing out on that shared experience with your classmates.
It's like Faisal is saying, hey, relationships are great, but they also require time and energy.
Right. And when you're in a demanding academic environment, it's all about finding that balance.
Exactly. He wants students to be mindful of their priorities, make sure those academic goals don't get overshadowed.
Absolutely. But relationships aren't the only potential pitfall, right?
Definitely not. He also brings up this danger of, normalizing mediocre grades.
What does he mean by that? Like just accepting good enough?
Yeah. It's so easy to fall into that trap, especially when you're transitioning from high school to university. The workload is heavier, the expectations are higher.
So he's saying, don't settle.
Exactly. Don't let those challenges make you complacent. He really pushes for a mindset of continuous improvement.
Like strive for excellence, not just passing grades.
Yes. He reminds us that those early years really set the tone for the rest of your academic journey, and they can have a big impact on your future career prospects.
He makes a good point. You're building a foundation. But how does he suggest students avoid these pitfalls? Did he offer any practical solutions?
He did. And this ties back to something we talked about earlier, tapping into the knowledge of senior students.
Oh, right. That's such a valuable resource. Did he have any specific examples of how they could help?
Well, he talked about how they can provide guidance on things like study strategies.
Oh, that makes sense. They've already been through it all. They know the ropes.
Exactly. And they're often more than willing to help. It's like having built-in mentors.
It's a great reminder that even in a new environment, you're not alone. There's a community there to support you.
And he emphasizes how important that support network is, both for your personal well-being and your professional growth.
I love that he connects those two aspects. They really do go hand in hand. But speaking of professional growth, didn't Faisal also highlight the importance of understanding how those core electrical engineering subjects relate to the Malaysian context?
He did, and he gave some really concrete examples. Like when he talked about circuits, he specifically connected it to Malaysia's growing renewable energy sector.
Oh, that's fascinating. It's not just theoretical knowledge. It has real-world applications.
Exactly, and it's specific to the opportunities and challenges that students will encounter in Malaysia.
So it's about connecting those fundamental concepts to the realities of the Malaysian electrical engineering landscape.
Did he do the same for other subjects?
He did. For example, he delved into the complexities of machines.
Machines?
Yeah, and how they're used in Malaysia's manufacturing industries, particularly in areas like automation and robotics.
Wow, that's getting pretty specific.
It is, and it makes his advice so much more valuable. It's grounded in the real world.
He's really painting a picture of how those seemingly abstract concepts translate into actual careers and industries.
It's like he's saying, don't just study these subjects because they're on the syllabus. Understand why they matter. Makes perfect sense. So it's not just about academic success, it's about preparing for a future career. But let's not forget about the cultural side of things.
Right. And Faisal definitely didn't. He talked a lot about the importance of really engaging with the local culture.
Beyond just the academic bubble, he mentioned his regret about not learning more Malay.
He did. And he stressed how much richer the experience would have been if he'd been able to communicate with locals in their native language.
It's more than just practical communication, isn't it?
It's about showing respect, a willingness to connect on a deeper level. Like he said, don't just be a visitor, become a participant in the Malaysian way of life.
I love that. Did he offer any suggestions for how students could immerse themselves in the culture?
Oh, yeah. He encouraged them to explore everything from the food to the historical landmarks, to really step outside their comfort zones and experience all that Malaysia has to offer.
So it's about embracing the full spectrum of the culture.
Exactly. And he linked this back to personal growth. You know, how immersing yourself in a new culture can make you more adaptable, more open-minded.
It broadens your horizons, literally and figuratively. It's like he's saying, don't just go to Malaysia to study, go to Malaysia to learn, to grow.
Beautifully put, it's about becoming a citizen of the world. But speaking of growth, let's talk about Faisal's advice on career preparation.
Career preparation. That seems a bit early for first-year students, doesn't it?
You might think so, but Faisal makes a really strong case for starting early. He's all about being proactive.
What does he suggest they do?
Well, remember his recommendation about using Flow CV to create a professional resume?
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
And he talks about the importance of researching potential employers.
Researching them,
Like really understanding their needs, what skills they're looking for, what their company culture is like.
so it's about knowing your target audience, essentially.
Exactly. And then tailoring your skills and experiences to match those requirements.
It's a smart strategy. You're not just throwing your resume out there randomly, you're being intentional.
And he goes even further. He suggests reaching out to professionals in your field, attending industry events, seeking out mentors.
Wow, he's really encouraging them to build a network.
He is, and it all ties back to that idea of being proactive, of taking ownership of your career path. And there's one last piece of advice that I found really intriguing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's his suggestion to explore personality and career aptitude tests.
Tests? Interesting. I haven't heard of those before.
He doesn't go into specifics, but his point is that self-awareness is key. Understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your natural inclinations.
So it's not just about what you want to do, but who you are as a learner, as a person.
Exactly. Imagine being able to identify your learning style, your ideal work environment, even your preferred level of interaction with others.
That's amazing. It would be like having a personalized roadmap for your career.
It's like Faisal is saying, don't just fit yourself into a mold, create a mold that fits you. And I think that message goes way beyond just electrical engineering or studying abroad.
It's about empowering individuals to really take control of their own development, their own destinies. And it's the perfect way to wrap up Faisal's talk, don't you think?
Absolutely. He's not just offering advice, he's providing a framework for a fulfilling and purposeful journey. And I think that's a great segue into the final part of our deep dive. We can explore how this idea of self-discovery can help you create a successful and fulfilling journey, not just in Malaysia, but in life as a whole.
You know, it's amazing how Faisal manages to tie everything back to this idea of being intentional.
Right. Really owning your journey.
Not just letting things happen, but making them happen.
Yeah.
And those personality and career aptitude tests he mentioned, those are such powerful tools for that self-discovery.
Totally. It's like, yeah, think about what you want to do, but also who are you, as a learner, as a person?
It's all about self-awareness, understanding your strengths, weaknesses, what comes naturally to you, and then using that to make smarter choices about your academic path.
And your future career, yeah. He doesn't get into specifics about which tests, but the point is clear, that self-awareness is a huge asset.
Imagine if you could pinpoint your learning style, right? What kind of work environment you thrive in, how you like to interact with others.
It'd be like having this personalized guidebook for navigating university and even beyond.
You could tailor your study habits, pick courses that play to your strengths, even look for internships or jobs that really fit your personality.
Don't just try to squeeze yourself into some mold. Make a mold that fits you. That's powerful stuff, and it goes way beyond just electrical engineering or studying abroad.
Totally agree. It's about giving people the power to shape their own lives, which I think is what Faisal's talk was all about, really.
So well said. Not just advice, but a whole framework for a fulfilling life. As we wrap up our deep dive into Faisal's insights, what are your biggest takeaways?
I'm struck by how practical he is, but also inspiring. He gives those concrete tips, like using the library, tailoring your resume, but he also pushes for growth.
Right. Self-discovery, cultural immersion, building that strong network. He really covers it all.
It's like he's saying, work hard, prepare, but also be open. Open to new experiences, challenges, never stop learning.
Exactly. Studying abroad isn't just about the knowledge, it's about transforming yourself, seeing the world differently, becoming a more well-rounded person.
And that's a journey worth taking, no matter what your field is, where your path leads.
So to all our listeners, remember what Faisal shared. Master the fundamentals, embrace those new cultures, connect with people, and maybe most importantly, really get to know yourself.
With that self-awareness and a proactive mindset, that's how you unlock your potential. That's how you make a real impact.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until our next deep dive, everyone, keep exploring, keep learning.